Okay, here we are. Welcome, everybody, wherever you are here on planet Earth. I'm welcoming you into my studio here in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. My name is Michael Markowski, and I'm going to be your drawing instructor for the next hour or month, depending on how many classes you decide to watch. So it's really exciting. I see 50 people who are watching right now, which is really exciting to have a nice big audience worth of people. And I don't know how many comments have been pouring in here. I was looking at a few of those right before I started, and a lot of people from British Columbia. And it's great also to see a bunch of people who have taken classes with me in the past. So I guess that might mean I possibly have done something right in the past. And people who've taken my photography classes and painting classes who are deciding to jump into drawing, which is great because I think drawing is one of those great fundamental skills that is applicable for virtually anything you do. Even if you're working in an office and you think you have absolutely nothing to do whatsoever with art, being able to communicate your ideas visually with just a pencil. You know, if you're in a board meeting and people are talking about the next event that you're gonna do and how you're gonna set things up, if you can get up onto the dry erase board or the chalkboard and just really kind of quickly start laying out some stick figures and where the pop-up banner is gonna go and the table, that is a monumental leap forward than virtually everybody else at that table. Right, so just understanding a little bit about drawing is going to pay huge dividends regardless of whatever you do. And there's tons of research showing that drawing or pursuing any kind of creative activity yields great things for your memory and for your emotional well-being. And so I'm really excited that so many people are taking this leap. And I see a lot of people are saying, I've suddenly got a lot of time to pursue drawing. So this is great. Just so you know, what I'm going to do, just right off the top in terms of the structure of the class, the class is intended to be accessible for anybody. So if you're sitting here on the couch and you've got your 5-year-old son or your 95-year-old grandmother or your 18-year-old daughter or whatever combination thereof, everybody should be able to follow along to all of the steps and all of the things that we're doing. And if something seems a little bit easy right now, as we go through the course, things will get more complicated. So I encourage you to kind of stick around. And I think there is value for even experienced artists to try some of these fundamental techniques again. And, it's like musicians. I'm friends with a lot of musicians, and they're always practicing their scales. Even people who are, I have friends that are in the Vancouver Orchestra, and they practice their scales all the time when I hang out with them, or when I used to hang out with them. So being able to practice those fundamental exercises is really helpful. Okay, so in terms of the structure, each class is going to be about an hour long, and I'm going to sort of do different things for about 15-minute chunks, and then I'm going to take a quick look at the comments, and then I'm going to, at the very end, after the hour is up, I'm going to go through the comments and try to answer any questions larger questions. So you're welcome to kind of say bye after an hour, and those of you who had a burning question that hasn't been answered, stick around to the very end and I'll try to get to those as well. Other things that I want to say. Okay, so this is a 10-hour course, and when I teach this in person, and a number of you have taken my classes before know this, each class is roughly 2 hours long. So we're not going to go for a full 2 hours today because I think that exhausts people, and it's a little bit of a different attention span than being in a classroom than sitting in front of your computer. So each class is broken down kind of in half, and that means we're going to do 2 classes a week. So today we'll have a class, and then on Thursday, same time, we'll have a class, and then next Tuesday and next Thursday, so on, until the 28th of May. So, and if you miss one of those episodes, each one of these episodes is archived, and you can watch them over and over. You can pause them, and if you want extra time for any of these exercises, you're welcome to take that time and watch them over and over and over again. Okay. Wow, look at it. 63 people are watching right now. So let me see. Oops, sorry, that's not the right one. Let's take that off and turn that there. You're already watching. So let's get right into things right now. The first thing that you'll want is some kind of paper to draw on. So you can use photocopy paper, you can use poster paper, any kind of paper. What I love about drawing is how accessible and democratic and inexpensive it is to get started. You don't, if you want to play hockey, you need all this expensive gear. With drawings, you can literally take a piece of paper out of a recycling bin and grab a little pencil from the library, or, well, you will be able to do that again at some point. But I would encourage you to, if you have a sketchbook, is to get your sketchbook out and to use that. Now, my favorite kind of sketchbook are these Canson brand sketchbooks. I'm not sponsored by them, or I should be, but I really like these kind of sketchbooks. I even like them a little bit bigger. These are great because they're mixed media, so you can actually paint on them, collage on them, and it's a great way of, you could use this as a scrapbook. Okay, so, but and I think this costs about $15 or so roughly. If there's an art supply store around you, you're welcome to. You can pick one of these up, or you can order them online. I thought I have lots of sketchbooks kicking around. I can't find a blank one. So this is another sketchbook that was actually given to me by a mentor of mine, Robert Bateman. I took a couple, or I don't know, a 2-week-long class with him a few years ago, and he gave me a sketchbook and autographed it inside. And I've been kind of holding off of actually using it. So I'm going to draw along with you guys every single drawing, step by step, inside of a sketchbook. So this will also give you an idea of how big my drawings are going to be. So you're going to need paper, and you're going to need some kind of a tool to draw on the paper. You could use pencils, you could use pens, you could, well, those are the main drawing tools. What I'm bringing out here is just some of my, let me find a screen here so you can see what I'm looking at here. So this box that I have here is my drawing pencils box, and inside, I'm just going to open it up so you can see what's inside here. A fun tool, and those of you who've taken drawing class with me before may have used these. These are called Willow charcoal sticks, and maybe we'll use some of these later on. And they are, if I can get the wrapping open, these kind of little sticks like this, and these are super fun to draw with. Let me just get a piece of paper so we can kind of draw and then smudge very easily. So they make a little bit of a mess, but I think everyone has soap and disinfectant and all those kind of things these days. So having some kind of charcoal, getting your fingers messy, is something I think, and being able to clean up is something we're all accustomed to. You've probably also seen, if you go to I think I got these, I think somebody gave these to me for Christmas, but I think you can find these at the dollar store. And these are kind of like a pack of pencils. Staedtler is a great brand of pencils. And what's nice about this is it comes with a series of, let me see, I'll get a little bit closer, HB, 2B, all these different kinds of weights of pencils, and we'll talk about those a little bit in a bit. But this is my pencil set. So you can see this is, when I go on a vacation, I bring this box with me, and it usually has a elastic band on it so that all the pencils don't fall out. And inside I've got different kinds of erasers and pencils, and this is my absolute favorite preferred type of pencil. This is a 2B pencil, and I love using 2B pencils. The most common pencil is your HB pencil. These other orange pencils, these are charcoal pencils, and these are just like the charcoal willow sticks we were just looking at. You know, I can draw and then smudge really easily. Some people love being able to smudge their pencil marks, and some people hate it. It's a total personal preference. What kind of tools do you like to use? This here is a graphite stick. So most pencils, including these, have graphite inside, which is like charcoal, but it's a different mineral. These, if you go click around on my website, you will see a video where I'm making drawings in a fighter plane, and this is one of those tools that I used on the fighter plane. And I liked these because I had to wear these leather gloves, and so using a tiny pencil just felt like I was drawing with a toothpick. It was so tiny. So these were great because I could grip them. But they're also and children like drawing with kind of a larger size pencil, but I actually really like drawing with a nice kind of thick piece of wood, or because it's just more comfortable in my hand. It's less kind of like, because often when we're holding pencils, we're usually writing something, right? And writing and drawing are very different activities. So lots of different kinds of pencils. If you want, for instance, here's a little thing that I can stick onto my pencil that kind of makes it a little bit thicker, and it's a little pre-made grip. I love this kind of stuff. Also, just while I'm in here looking at stuff, I love these. I've had a hard time finding them, but I remember getting these at Art Supply Store years ago. It's kind of like a pen cap, and you can put it over your pencil. So if you have these in your pocket, they don't you don't get a sharp point when you sit down. Great things to have are erasers. So this is my favorite kind of eraser. It's called a kneaded eraser, and they usually come in a little pack like that. And you can see even in this kind of sample pack that there was even a little eraser in there like that. And these erasers are great. These are my preferred kind of eraser, because if I make a mark and I want to erase it, probably won't work too well with this charcoal, is that it doesn't leave any residue, right? Versus another great kind of eraser is this big kind of chunky eraser, and when I erase, it does a great job of erasing, but then we've got all of this residue, these little eraser shavings all over the place. And if you've got a drawing that is very delicate, it's very hard to get those eraser shavings off the page. Anyway, so I'm going to grab a couple of pencils out of here. And here's a 4B pencil. And I got my eraser. And I'll move all my pencils out of the way because we're going to get right into the drawing right now. So everyone has got a pencil and some paper. So the first thing that I want to draw here, let me bring up an image. So I'm gonna add my face back in here and then turn this here. Okay, so, oops, okay, let's just bring this image up here. I don't know if you've seen the image on the screen right now, but this is a famous optical illusion. So this image is, depending on how you're looking at it, you may see a vase, a white vase, or you may see two people looking at one another, right? So, and it's generally pretty hard for people to see those two things simultaneously. So you have a white vase in the center, or two faces in black that are looking at one another. Let me see. So, I want to make a drawing of that. So let's, actually, where is this? Okay. So, with your pencil and paper, let's get your paper out and we'll open up to a blank page. I think I got a few drawings in here, so I'm going to flip to a blank page. And inside of this sketchbook here, I'm just going to move this to the side, and you can see how big it is. My sketchbook is basically going from the top of the screen to the bottom of the screen. What I want you to do is make and we'll see if this is dark enough for you to see. We're going to draw a nice big circle on the page. And look, my circle is not a perfect circle. If you know anything about me, I could care less about perfection, right? So it's about learning the principles. And it also takes a little bit of time to warm up. So once you've got a circle on the page, what I want you to do is we're going to divide it. We're not really divide. Well, we're going to put some horizontal lines on the top and the bottom. Now, if you are right-handed, what I want you to do is I want you to try to draw the right side of the face. So I'm going to do this. I'm right-handed. I'm actually was born, I believe, ambidextrous. At least it seems like that. I'm pretty good at drawing with both hands. So if you're right-handed, I want you to draw this drawing just like that. I'm just going to do another version of this for the left-handed folks out here. If I'm left-handed, I'm going to use my left hand to try to draw this, which is also a fun activity. I'm going to draw that. Okay. So either way, you should have one side done like this. So this was for our right-handers and our left-handers, right? Okay, so what I want you to do now, if you've got this drawing done, is I've purposefully hidden that original image. I want you to now try drawing this image again, just looking at your image, not at the so don't pause and reverse and go back and try to look at the previous thing. Try to draw what you had here, which is not easy. Right, so you're copying. So you imagine there's like a mirror right down the middle, and I'm going to do this, let's say with my left hand. Okay, so that's depending on how fast you're moving, this may take you a little bit more time. If you made a mistake, you can erase it. You can see my version here that I did with my left hand, both sides, is not perfect. I think my right hand, which I draw with far more often, is I think I did an okay job there. So let me see. Just gonna move this over here. So hopefully you've finished this right now. Now, this is a very famous activity from a book by Betty Edwards called Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain. And you may or may not have heard of that book. You've probably seen it in used bookstores since, because I think it was released in the mid-1960s and was a hugely popular book that sold millions and millions of copies. Like literally one of the most best-selling books in history. And then it kind of disappeared. And then over the past 15 years or so, it's become a huge bestseller again, because it's sort of like the foundational Bible for art therapy programs. Because what this tool is often used for is a diagnostic tool to help people understand. It can diagnose people who've had some sort of a brain trauma, because mirroring this drawing is really difficult for people with healthy brains, right? But people who are maybe a little bit younger, or people who've had any some kind of post-traumatic stress or brain injuries are virtually incapable of doing this exercise. So I like doing it because it can help me as an instructor. Now, I can't see what everybody's done here, and usually people are aghast at their work, and some people find it really easy. What this also helps us understand is to mirror this image requires the imaginative part of your brain. You have to be able to essentially take one side of the image and then flip it in your mind to draw it on the other side of the page, right? And to do that, you have to kind of take a picture in your brain, even for just a fraction of a second, while you look at one side or the other while you're drawing it. And that is really hard for some people to do. But the good news is, if you've really struggled at this and you're really unhappy and you're thinking like, oh no, maybe I should drop out right now because I'm not happy with what I've done, is that this is the beginning, right? If you're not happy with it, then we're going to get better and better and better. And it also, what happens here is we're building. Often I also ask people, how did that feel? And some people say, oh, well, doing that, like my head kind of hurt. And that's actually a really good thing, because what that's telling us is that you're building those connections between your right and left side of your brain. So if you are right-handed, you primarily are using the left side of your brain, because the left side of your brain, when you're right-handed, is the one that controls, your most of your daily thinking, like remembering a shopping list and remembering to wash your hands when you've just been to the grocery store, or that kind of thing. Versus the right side of your brain, when you're right-handed, is the side of your brain that manages all the creative tasks in doing this exact exercise of flipping an image over onto the other side. Okay, so the more creative things you do, whether that's drawing or learning violin or taking up any kind of new skill, you start forming those connections between the right and left side of the brain, which will benefit you in so many other ways. Okay, so if we've done this exercise, we're going to move on. I should also say, if I've got a sketchbook, and I'll just say this right at the top, often what people will draw on both sides of the sketchbook, they really want to maximize every little part, and I see people doing this exercise right in the corner, like, oh, I don't want to waste any paper. Your sketchbook is probably cost you $10 to $20, and ideally you're going to be drawing a lot, right? I want you to become like you're drawing every day, and I want you to fill up sketchbooks. And if you're just doing these little notes in the corners and trying to save money on your sketchbook, that's, first of all, I don't think you're going to get everything possible out of the class, because really we want to encourage you to start drawing not just with your in fact, you don't really want to be drawing with your wrist much at all. You want to be using your shoulder and your arm to doing most of the drawing. and ideally even having your hand floating off the paper. But we'll talk about all that later. So I would encourage you, rather than drawing on the opposite side of the paper, just flip it over and draw on the next side. Because also, if you draw on, let's say, these two sides, these drawings are going to rub against one another, like this. Well, I don't know if you can quite see it, but there's already a halo of this drawing on here. So if you had done a really cool drawing on this page, and then you did another drawing on this page, it was also really cool, and you put it in your backpack, and then you walk around, and it's moving around, you'd be horrified to open it up and find the drawings have merged, and there's shadow versions on each page here. Okay. So, we've got one drawing in the can. Let's, I'm going to really quickly here transition to my handout and just show you a little bit about what we're going to do over the next few weeks. Come on, there we go. So on the screen now is the version of the handout that I usually give to people when I'm doing the class in person. And I just see some pretty funny comments on the comments section out of the corner of my eye about the last exercise. So this is kind of the first handout. And so today what we're going to do is really just introductory, fun little drawing exercises, just to kind of get you excited about drawing, and so that we're jumping right into the deep end of the pool. And I promise you can swim. We're going to continue doing some fun activities like that on Thursday, and we're going to kind of keep on building on some of those basic techniques. Next Tuesday, we're going to start kind of really into some meaty drawing exercises. So like you see on the screen here, we're going to learn a little bit about shading. And if you're somebody who's, you've seen a picture of a really cool lion that's on a coffee shop wall, and you walk in and you're like, that's a really cool photograph, and then you think to yourself, and then you get up close to it and like, whoa, that's a drawing. In all likelihood, that is using these kind of techniques that are on this side in the PDF, right? In the image, right? So that's using shading to create the illusion of depth on a page, right? So you could see these kind of images of, a sphere. Let me see, bring that a little bit closer here, and some different kinds of shapes. So next week we are going to do this. If you follow along, by the end of next class, you're going to be able to do stuff like that. Okay, and then 2 weeks from now, we're going to learn about perspective, which is definitely the most complicated thing that we are going to learn together. And it's difficult. It's a difficult concept, and I've been teaching it for years. And I always think of it as, like those 3D pictures that that are in books that they looks like this weird computer glitch, and you look at it and people say, oh, there's a dinosaur, and then you're like, what? There's no dinosaur, right? So but if you look at it and you cross your eyes, and then all of a sudden you see that dinosaur, perspective is a lot like that. It takes a little bit of time to wrap your head around it, but once you get it, it is so exciting to be able to draw, because in using perspective and some of the basic principles of it, because it's going to really make those drawings that you might be doing that just appear awkward and flat, and all of a sudden expand them into the illusion of 3 dimensions. So we're going to learn about perspective. And then 3 weeks from now, we're going to be learning how to draw complicated objects and organisms using simple shapes. So like you could see in this drawing here, there's a bird or a pencil sharpener, and we're going to learn how to draw something like that from basic shapes. And you might say, oh, that looks like what I see on the back of my cereal box every morning when I'm making breakfast for my kids. Like, you're seriously going to show me how to do that? Like, yeah, because it works. I've shown little children in elementary schools. I was doing a whole project showing children how to draw portraits and figures just a few months ago down in Surrey, like a suburb of Vancouver here. And the whole school I taught, kindergarten kids all the way up to high school kids in the whole school. I showed them all this when we had an exhibition of their work. And I teach at Emily Carr University here in Vancouver, and I show people who are determined to be professional artists how to draw humans and other kinds of shapes using this very same system, right? It's a way of looking at things and breaking them down into the most simple kinds of shapes to make your life easier. Because if I just said, draw that bird right now in 5 minutes, where do I even start? Okay, so I'm going to show you how to do that. And then all of that builds up to our final class, which is learning. We're going to draw some like fruits, and we're going to make a still life, and I'll have one on the screen in real time that we can draw from, but you can also set one up for yourself and draw that too. So there's plenty of, so that's 10 hours of class that I'm going to give you for absolutely free if you decide to stick around for all of them. And again, you can watch them in real time with me on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 4 o'clock here Pacific time, 7 o'clock Eastern time. I think that's 9 o'clock in AM in Australia. Wherever you are on Earth, you can watch it in real time, and you can type some comments into the comment bar, and I can read them and interact with you. Or they'll be up there for till the end of time on YouTube, and you can go back and watch them at your convenience. So if you're busy on Thursday nights, just come back on Friday morning and you'll be able to follow along. Okay, so let me just see. So we talked here about supplies a short while ago. Having a sketchbook, pencil, eraser. I also would encourage you, if you have some colored pencils laying around, you can get pencils from like the dollar store for $1 or $1.25, but you can also go to an art supply store and buy really nice pencil crayons for $50, $60. So I don't want to go off in too much of a tangent, but what is the difference between a set of colored pencils for $1 for 12 pencils and one for $50 for 12 pencils? The difference is the quality of the pencil and the so-called lead inside. A really nice set of colored pencils has very little wax or binder inside, so you can draw with it and then draw on top of it with another color and draw on top of it with another color and build up these really beautiful detailed blending of color. And with some of these, you can even add water to them and they turn into like a watercolor pencil. They're water-soluble pencils. Versus cheaper pencils, there's a lot of wax in there, so they're almost like crayons. If you're drawing and you draw some red and then you want to add something over top, you might be able to get 1 or 2 layers, and then the pencil is going to resist new marks. Okay. Other things, a cheap pencil sharpener works really well, or I've got a electric one here that works. Okay. We also talked about how to hold a pencil, we're going to talk about how to hold a pencil. That's where I want to go to next. So when you're writing, often people, I've seen every combination of ways that people hold a pencil to write, whether you're right or left-handed, right? And there's no right way to do it. I want to make that very clear. I've seen every kind of way it works, and I have friends who are artists who have ways that to me look super awkward, but they make beautiful drawings, right? There are fantastic people who are incredible drawers who use their feet, right? Who have some sort of challenge that prevents them from using their hands, and they've adapted to use their feet. So you can do this with your hand, right? So generally, people will hold a pencil the way that they hold a pen. Generally, people hold a pencil to draw in the same way that they hold a pencil to write their shopping list or a check to their landlord or something, right? And that generally works, but there are times where you want to hold your pencil differently for different reasons. So you might want to, instead of holding it in that way that feels most comfortable when you're writing a check, I often encourage people, you put your pencil right down and then think of your hand like a forklift or some kind of construction equipment, and you can kind of just reach down and pick it up like that, right? And then you can kind of shift your finger on the top, and this allows you to get some really soft, subtle gradations in your pencil marks. Okay. The next thing that I want to do, and I'm going to zoom in here, is I'm bringing this next one on the screen. On the top, you'll see, it's kind of hard to get, is that working? Slide that over, doesn't want to go over. Okay, I got to make it a little bit smaller. Okay, so you'll see on the screen now, there's these 4 rows and 5 columns. Under row A, or column A, you'll see those boxes are kind of highlighted and they're a little bit darker. And then, so what I want you to do, so under column A is what's the best way to say this? Column A, I want you to try to match up the drawing that looks most like the drawing in column A. So if I'm looking at this image, row number 1, which one is it, the B, C, D, or E that looks most like A? You don't even have to draw anything right now, but just looking at the screen, I want you to try to determine which one is which. So I'm going to give you about 2 minutes right now to see if you can figure out which ones are which. And usually I give this on a piece of paper and you can kind of just X out the ones that don't work. But while you're doing this and trying to determine which one's which, I'll just ramble on a little bit. If you look at these, think about like finding the differences here. So if you see something that is clearly not like A, then you could scratch it off your list. So for instance, let's say this was, if I go back to my sketchbook, do I have this here? I could make a little list here and I go, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4. So what is it? And I could do B, C, D, E, B, C, D, E, B, C, D, E, B, C, D, E. Right, and as I look at this image, which one looks most like A? Well, B doesn't look like A because of that longer rectangular box. D doesn't look like it could be because there's only 2 lines on that vertical above the circle. So it's between C and E. Right, so and I look at E, has instead of that rectangle in the bottom left corner is vertical rather than horizontal. So that would mean C is the one. Okay, so let's try to do this. I don't want to sort of do it all for you, and I'm trying to remember which ones are which here. I always forget, so it's always a little bit of a challenge for me. But I think it's the reason why I do this is so much of drawing is about looking. And I use the analogy of if you're in a car and you're driving down the highway and you have a review mirror and your windshield, which one do you want to be looking out of most of the time? Obviously, it's the windshield, right? You want to be looking at the road in front of you rather than the road behind you. Drawing is the same way. If you're trying to draw something, you want to be looking at that thing more than you're drawing, because all the answers are in front of you, not behind you on the paper, right? The more you're looking at your paper while you're drawing, the less you're focused on the object or person that you're trying to draw. So this, I try to reinforce this exercise as often as possible. So I think people should be finishing. The first one, what we did together was C. If I recall, the second one is D. The third one, if I remember, is E. And the fourth one is just going, I believe it is C again, I think. So if you got those wrong, don't worry about this. I often, when I do it in class, people call it out. I see certain people like, oh yeah, I did meant C, obviously. And it's not like doesn't mean that you're better or worse at things. It's just trying to kind of get you to looking at the details of things. Okay, so because that's super important. So let's go. Let's go to. You can even, let's say on your sketchbook. Let's say I've got this space down here and above here, or if you want, you can go to a blank page. Or, if you really don't like this drawing and you just want to move on, you could use the opposite side. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to zoom in on, okay. This is a little bit trickier to do online because usually this is a handout that you could do this drawing right on the handout. But what I want you to do is, let's make some boxes here. And you could do it like that, or you could draw 6 boxes like this. Again, look, my boxes aren't pretty boxes. I'm not concerned with making it look perfect, right? What I want you to do now is I want you to copy what you see in I'll just start drawing this here. And I usually also set a timer. So I'm looking at the top left box, and I'm going to try to copy what I see in those boxes right here. All right, so you could see this is a fairly straightforward activity. So what I want you to do now is I want you to do all 6 of these here. Right? You could do it again on a blank piece of paper or on the paper you're already using for your drawing. And each one, you want to spend, I usually set like a 6-minute timer for this. And some people can do this all in 45 seconds, and some people, they need 10 minutes to do it. I would say if you are somebody who's doing it really, really, really fast, what I want you to do is just to slow it down, right? Slow it down. If you're and try to get a little bit more accuracy. If, however, you're somebody who, is obsessed with perfection and, is drawing this and erasing constantly to try to get it perfect, well then what I want you to do is to speed things up a little bit and just be a little bit more forgiving to yourself about achieving perfection, right? Because at this particular stage of drawing, we're not concerned with perfection. We want it's sort of like a lot of people when it comes to drawing want. I'm gonna switch this to here, and I'm gonna draw while I talk here a little bit. A lot of people when they're thinking about drawing, they feel if I don't do something that is worthy of the National Gallery and to be exhibited alongside Picasso and Frida Kahlo and Emily Carr, well then I'm a complete and utter failure. And but that's how people often approach drawing. It's like, I can't draw because I can't draw better than anybody else on earth, right? But if we took that same attitude towards things like riding a bicycle, there would literally be no one riding a bicycle if the barrier to riding a bicycle was win the Tour de France. And if you don't win if you're not capable of winning the Tour de France, then there is absolutely no point whatsoever in getting on a bicycle, right? So you don't have to make the best drawing ever in order to draw, right? There's lots of leeway, and there's plenty of drawers, people who draw professionally, that draw in very different styles, and we'll talk about that as we go. But there's people who draw very realistic drawings, and then there's people who draw very abstract drawings, and some people who and they sell their paintings for millions of dollars, right? So on both sides. So some professional artists might find this activity that we're doing right now very difficult, right? So not everyone, just in the same way a guitarist might not know how to play a piano, but is very good at using the guitar, right? They could be like Django Reinhardt and be the best guitarist ever, but, might not be able to play a violin. It doesn't mean that they're an awful musician. They just haven't mastered that tool. Okay, so I'm getting closer to finishing my drawing here. If yours is, if you're still kind of way back here on the second one, then that tells us that what we need to do is we're a little bit hard on ourselves, that we're kind of possibly obsessed with perfection, and that might be useful in other aspects of our life, but when it comes to drawing, it is going to burn you out. And quite honestly, if that's how you approach drawing, you are going to give up on drawing. If you're obsessed with perfection, there's just the likelihood that you're going to stick around for all these episodes is very low, and you're going to be very unhappy with everything you do. So I want you to forgive yourself and give yourself the freedom to make mistakes, right? If there's anything you learn from today, that would be it. Okay, so I usually would also ask at this point, like, how was this activity? How did you do? How did that feel? Some people really struggle with this exercise, and then some people are just like, oh, this is super easy. Really? This is what we're doing? So again, there's different sort of skill levels and abilities. Okay, so that was our drawing, and I think we've gone a little bit more than 6 minutes on that anyway. So the next thing that I want to transition to, and what we're going to do is we're going to do, how much time do I have here? I think what we're going to do, we'll do one more drawing for today, or to finish up, and then we'll call it a session, and then I'm going to go through the comments and answer as many comments as possible. Okay, so let's go to a blank page in our sketchbook. And on the screen, I've just brought up this image by Pablo Picasso. It's a drawing of a guitar. So what I want us to do is imagine we were just doing that exercise we just did, right? I want you to repeat that on a full page in your sketchbook, right? So I want you to try drawing that image again here on the sketchbook. Okay, and I am going to, let's say we'll spend 8 minutes on this drawing. So that'll take us just a little bit over the hour mark of the video. And what I want you to do is, and I want you to start right now, right? Before I even begin, I want you to start, and then I'm going to kind of jump in afterwards here. Because I don't want to sort of tip my hat just yet as to how I would approach this drawing. I want you to start the drawing yourself. Because let's say some people will start the drawing from the top and then sort of work their way down like a printer. You know, some people will do the opposite and start from the bottom and work their way up. You know, depending if you're right or left-handed, I've seen people work one side to the other or the other way to the other, right? Some people work from the center and expand outwards, and some people work from the out and expand center, and some people are all over, right? Again, there's no right way to do this. It's whatever feels most comfortable to you. And it's important for you to, you know, every once in a while to sort of check in with yourself and feel and ask, like, how does this feel? Does this feel natural to me, or does this feel really awkward? So if it feels really awkward, you know, then it means that possibly it's something really new and we're challenging ourselves, and that's why it might feel awkward. Or there might be a better way to do it that's going to be more efficient and make you feel more comfortable. And we want, as we're drawing, we want this to be a pleasurable activity. We want to be able to draw for fun, right? I think drawing is the most kind of relaxing and pleasurable activity, but I'm biased because this is what I do for a living and what I love doing. I'm sure plenty of other people feel differently, but so it's just a matter of kind of checking in with yourself and feeling like, if I'm doing this and it doesn't feel right, then I need to make some kind of a change, right? Okay. So as you're doing that, I'm going to draw along with you. And maybe I'm just going to sharpen my pencil. I should mention too, I often find drawing with a really sharp pencil to be actually a little bit tricky. So I don't actually like to have a super sharp pencil. I like it when it's just before it gets super sharp, so it's a little bit still rounded on the end. And if you get it till it's too sharp, you can just take your pencil and kind of, it's like you're kind of sanding down the edge. And you'll even find that there are these little blocks at art supply stores that have a little tiny piece of sandpaper that you can use. Or if you have some sandpaper at home, you can just take it and that'll immediately kind of take the point off of your pencil. Okay, so I'm gonna catch up to everybody here who's working on that drawing. So at this point, you should be about halfway done this drawing of a guitar. So when I'm doing this, one of the things that I often will do when I'm looking at a drawing is try to find the center of the image and of my piece of paper. So when I see that, I see this is the top of that, or the center of that guitar, and then I come out and come down. And my screen, for me, this is very tiny, so I might make some slight alterations as I draw. The other thing I'm doing is I'm kind of looking for connection points. So every line I put down is in relationship to every other line I put down here. And that would mean this guy is going to come all all the way up here. And then we've got... And you can see mine is already, there's some distortions that have happened here. I'm looking at it like, oh, I've already made a few so-called mistakes, right? Can't quite, oh, here, let me see. If you're going super fast, what I also want you to try doing is to draw the, write down the text in the top left corner and see if you can do that. How are we doing? About 2 minutes left to finish this drawing off. Where am I here? Okay. You know, another thing that is happening as I'm drawing this, and I've got a 4B pencil. So this is a pencil that will get soft and rounded very quickly, and I can see my lines are changing in width and thickness as I go here. Remember I was talking about holding the pencil from the side? So I can hold the pencil, instead of drawing or like as if I'm writing, I'm holding the pencil from the side. And to get this kind of subtle effect inside here, maybe I'll move my sketchbook a little bit over here so you can see. I'm kind of just holding it very lightly, really. And kind of shading this area inside. And so to make it darker, I just keep applying more and more pressure to the pencil. And that's getting slowly darker and darker and darker. Okay, we've got about 1 minute left on this drawing. Oh, and if you're kind of almost done, you want to kind of scan it and see, like, is there anything that's missing here? Do I want to maybe darken something? Let's say I'm going to darken this area on the guitar. Okay, so this drawing, you know, by Picasso, it was to begin with an abstraction, right? It wasn't a, you know, this is the part of his cubist phase of art making, and it was about taking recognizable things and then sort of almost like if you think of like a cardboard box, unfolding them so you could see all the sides simultaneously. So your drawing of this Picasso drawing is a distortion of a distortion, right? So it's already going to look a little bit strange, because Picasso's looked strange to begin with too, right? So yours, if it doesn't look like Picasso's, it may actually look more like the guitar again. It doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, and I see people talking about perfection here in the comments, you know, if you just think about it's the imperfections in drawing and painting which give your artwork its unique quality. If you were to reproduce that original image absolutely identically, you know, that would be impressive, but it wouldn't tell us anything about you besides the fact that you are really good at, you have good hand-eye coordination and are great at reproducing and copying things, right? When it comes to art, we're always looking for the idiosyncratic individual qualities and abilities people have that separate them from everybody else, right? So the changes that you make, either purposefully or accidentally in your drawing, are good things, not bad things. And that is such an important thing to remember, because you know, especially when we're drawing faces, sometimes people get so down on themselves about the quality of the portraits they're doing, and I'm coming around looking at them thinking like, wow, that's so cool, like how did you decide to draw the nose that way? And they're like, oh, oh, don't look, it's so bad, oh, it's awful, I'm so embarrassed. And I think in that moment, that person has made something incredible, but because it turned out differently than what they wanted it to look like, it's a failure. So, this is what we often say, artists are their worst critics, because often we're making something that is new and it surprises us and scares us. And that's why having a third person or a second person to, give us feedback on our work is really helpful, to have somebody look at it. Because I would say, even if you're not happy with the drawing you made, if you were to show just this simple drawing to a friend of yours and say, what do you think? They go like, well, that's really cool. Like, where did you buy that? Or like, oh no, I did this drawing. Oh, I didn't know you could draw at all. Like, when did you pick up this new skill? Like, oh, I just started taking an online class, right? So most people are very self-conscious about their drawing, because drawing is a very personal activity. And it can be very scary to put something out onto the page, but it can also be super cathartic as well. Okay. Usually at this point we would continue on for another hour. Maybe people are getting up and going to the bathroom. I think for today, I kind of want to keep drawing though. Do I want to? I'm having a great time, so I'm just, let's do a little exercise here. And this is going to be something I didn't plan on doing, but just for fun. What I want to do is we are going to do, come on. Okay. What I want to do now is we're going to take this same drawing and we're going to do it, let's do it again, and we are going to do it twice as fast, and and we are going to draw it upside down. Okay, so what I want you to do is, I've inverted this image, and what I want you to try doing is to draw it faster, and I want you to draw it upside down, side by side here on the page. And I'm going to give you 4 minutes to do it, starting right now. So, I'm going to check. So 4 minutes starting, or we're already a couple minutes in, or about 30 seconds in. So let's try to go faster. All right. So you've already done this, but you did it the other way. Now it's upside down. So now it looks a little bit different, right? And maybe you're going to be a little bit more flexible with yourself to draw it without being so concerned about making it perfect, because now it's upside down. What am I doing here? Okay, we got 3 minutes left. And where am I here? I did see a comment there as I'm going here, as we're getting closer to finishing up. If you're enjoying this and you want to, leave a small donation, you don't have to, but there is a link to what's called PayPal Me in the description below, and you could just send $1 or $2 or $2,000 or whatever you want. And that's just a little way of expressing, showing me that you're having a great time, but you don't have to. But I saw some people were asking about that, so eventually my Patreon will be up and running, which is another way of supporting this, and I'll have some kind of little perks for that, but I haven't set that up for today's show yet. It's just getting all of the tech running. Okay, so if you've done all that too, then you can even try to copy the text upside down, which is tricky. And so, what am I doing here? You can see I'm not making it perfect either, right? I'm actually, it's very hard for me to see the screen because it's so tiny from, where am I going here? Oh my goodness. Okay, so maybe you've got an image like that. We've got about another 45 seconds. People saying, keep drawing, this is great. That's very, very touching that people are enjoying this. And still, I was seeing those numbers, still 52 people watching in real time right now, drawing along with me. This is really exciting. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in and for watching. About 1 minute, or sorry, about 10 seconds left to finish your drawing. When you're all done your drawing, you can rotate your drawing. Let me see. We'll put this back. Okay, and then you can rotate your picture and then compare it to the original side-by-side, side up, right? Just as we're finishing up, and again, I'll stick around for another 10-15 minutes. If anybody has any other questions, I'll go through all of your questions. But some people actually find drawing upside down like this actually improves their drawing because you stop looking at it as recognizable imagery and you just start seeing a bunch of weird shapes. Now this is a different little, it won't work as well with this activity because we were drawing a very distorted image to begin with. So, but if we were drawing a face, which we're going to do next class, and we'll repeat this exercise again, I think you'll find some really interesting developments will have occurred. Okay. So, if you you don't have to contribute anything. Again, this is intended to be a free class. But one way that you could help me out would be just to click like on this video and leave a comment. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel and also click that little bell next to it. I didn't even know what that, I would hear people saying that and I'm like, what on earth are they talking about? But if you click that little bell, all it will do is it will just, next time you go on YouTube, there'll be a little thing saying like, oh, there's a new video scheduled, and you can click on that and it'll let you know that a new one of these videos is going to be appearing. There's also you can RSVP to the Facebook page, which will keep you notified of when, remind you that there's another episode coming on Thursday, and that links and all that stuff is down below. I'll also put out a detailed kind of timestamp of when we did each thing in the video itself after this is over, so that if you were like, oh, I want to try doing that upside down drawing again, when did we, and you're scrolling through, you can just go down the bottom and click on that and it'll immediately jump to that part, like a CD used to do when we had CDs, and you go to track 4 or whatever, right? As opposed to winding your cassette tape. Some people probably watching this don't even know what a cassette tape is. Okay, so let me see. So if you want to say sayonara right now, it's been a great pleasure having you with me here in my studio under these very odd circumstances. I would encourage you to do a little bit of drawing between now and next class. Even if it's not even drawing, is looking around your house. Maybe you have some books on art, or you see something on Instagram, is to pay a little bit more attention to those images and start thinking about what are the kinds of art that you're most attracted to. Is there a cartoonist or artist, a illustrator, somebody who's making images that you really like? And I want you just to put that into the frame of mind, like maybe start following that person's Instagram or whatever, and because it's important to kind of start asking yourself what kind of art you like, right? Everybody likes different kinds of art, so we want you to start narrowing down what you want to be doing, so that we can also, in this class, maybe start focusing on those kind of styles that work best for you. Okay, so thank you very much for tuning in. I'm now just going to go through some of these comments and try to reply to people here. And let me see. Oh, great. Peter. Oh, Peter was watching. Peter's taken, I don't know how many of my classes. That's great to see you again here. There's a lot of people that have taken classes with me before. Karen, my painting class. Oh, great. Hi, Karen. Wendy says, actually, I go back to Karen's comment. She talks about wanting to learn some basic drawing skills so to help her with painting. That's super helpful. And Wendy in Delta, now she's got a lot of extra time. Lulu loves art here in Vancouver and is drawing with her daughter. I hope you and your daughter were able to get something out of today's class. And if there's other things that I can do to kind of help make it more accessible for you and your children while you're working, please let me know in the comments. If there's things that were working well, I'd love to know what those are. If there's things that you think I could improve on, whether it's some kind of lighting or sound, those are really helpful. Yesterday I was teaching a photography class on the same channel, which you can watch right now too if you like. And the sound cut out towards the very end. And I had all these frantic comments. There's no sound. So I had no idea that was going on until people left those comments. Sam in San Francisco, he's an intermediate level artist. That's great. Hi, Sam. Welcome, my American friends. I lived for, I don't know, over 12 years, almost, or down in Los Angeles, and one of my first art exhibitions was in San Francisco. Let me see. Dorothy finally figured out how to get on. It's definitely a little bit of a challenge if you've never watched a live stream before to figure out how all this works, but I'm hoping that you were able to make it work and you were able to draw along with me, Dorothy. Ria and Jeff. Oh, SR Wang 888. Thanks for tuning in. Steven. Oh, great, Steven. I wonder if Karen's there with you. You guys are drawing together out in Ontario, Guelph. Is it Guelph or Guelph? I always want to say Guelph. It's a tongue twister. Guelph. I'm going to stop saying it. This Vancouver mom watching with her crawling baby, wanting to get creative again. Oh, cool. Yes, we have an 8-month-old daughter upstairs and trying to do anything with a little child is a little bit of a challenge. So good on you for trying to do this while you're doing some childcare. Awesome. Paula, Vancouver Island, somewhere between beginner and intermediate. Want to start drawing regularly again. Great. I hope this has been helpful right off the top here, Paula. Amy. Oh, and our daughter Edie, we're watching upstairs. Oh, Sandra, yes, good to see you again, too. Thanks for taking my classes or for tuning in again. Ebenezer. Yes, I remember, yeah. And were you watching yesterday? Or was that another Ebenezer, too? Lori, another one of my former students. Oh, yes, with your friend, Karen and Lois. Yeah, I remember you guys. Ernesto. I don't know what you wrote here, Ernesto, in Spanish. In Chile, maybe? Is that... that's awesome. Yeah, South America. Oh, awesome. That's one place I'd love to go. It's sort of like on my bucket list of places down in Latin America and Machu Picchu and Argentina, Brazil. My wife and I went for our honeymoon in Mexico. I know it's not South America, and they're totally different countries. I'm not that ignorant, but that was still, I think, probably one of my absolute favorite vacations of all time. Of course, I was in the glow of our wedding, but oh my goodness, the food in Mexico, the best ever, and the people, super nice. Rodolfo, oh yeah, from Montreal. You took one of my classes 2 years ago. Great. I'm glad that we're still in touch. Great to see you again, Rodolfo. And Deb. Oh, your audio kicked out. I remember reading that from during the middle of the stream and panic because that was what happened yesterday. Yes, and Deb was asking, are the classes available? Yes, so you can watch this over again. Yannick. Oh yes. To be or not to be. yes, to be or I've been teaching this for so long and I can't believe I've never made that joke. That's a good little. I mean, I'm a father, so it's I get the dad jokes. And there's my mother watching from Calgary. Hi, Mom. Maybe I hope you were drawing along with us too. Instead of just watching. I know there's a lot of people who just watch, but I would encourage you to draw. It's a good skill. Some people say I might be good at it doing this. So, but I appreciate the support regardless. The Huntley family here. Great. Yes. Jody was interrupted, but now she's back on. Wow, so many people, so many familiar faces. Jessica, yes, I remember you. You're watching here in Vancouver. Hoping to get the basics. Yes. Well, we started out from ground zero, right? So, we're gonna progressively get better and better and better as we go. Thanks, Peter, for letting Jessica know about any donations. Stephen, thanks for pointing out the importance of not being a perfectionist. Absolutely. Being a perfectionist is helpful if you are building a building, and you want to make sure the building doesn't fall. But even if you look at Frank Gehry's drawings, one of probably the greatest architect in Canadian history, or she's certainly the greatest architect in Canadian history, but certainly maybe top 5 in human history. If you look at his sketches, Frank Gehry, he's the guy that did the Guggenheim Bilbao Museum, beautiful building, and the Disney Concert Hall in Los Angeles. His sketches are super sloppy. He's definitely... I met him and walked around his studio with him, which was like walking through the chocolate factory with Charlie, or not Charlie, Willy Wonka. That was a pretty incredible experience, and looking at, he made these drawings on little pieces of paper. They're just these doodles, and then he'd give them to his like staff, and then they would build them into these architectural models. Like, I was just like, this is what I want to be. I want to make a little scribble on a napkin and pass it to somebody, say, okay, now turn this into a building. Sam was saying, keep drawing. Yes. I mean, I love it. There's just only so many hours in the day here, right? I could probably do the whole 10-hour class in one sitting and burn everybody out. Just having a great time. Thanks, Sam. I really appreciate that. And Steven, just drawing you out. I definitely had people leave class, and I hear them in the hallways and like, oh man, I think I need a beer now. That was intense. So I'm like your gym trainer. I'll work you out for sure. All these people saying thank you. All great, thank you. Yes, and Dorothy said you drew better at drawing upside down. Who knew, right? Sometimes when we're drawing it right side up, we get so fixated on making it perfect. Amy says, awesome. Thank you, Amy. Sarah, thank you. Blue Star, thank you. I'm not sure which of the... was this Mary Ellen Huntley? Thanks for pushing my brain into a corner that it doesn't usually go. Thank you. Thanks, Mary Ellen. Lulu23, love your mustache. Thank you. I gotta make a video on how to style a mustache like that, because that's a question I always get all the time. Thank you. All these thank yous. This is so nice. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. I'm grateful. Thank you. Anne said, thanks. Love how you took the intimidation out of drawing. This should be fun. Many of us are too hard on yourselves. Absolutely. That's the whole plan, is to make this as accessible as possible, so that anybody can draw. When I hear people saying they cannot draw, it drives me absolutely nuts. I think it's like somebody saying I can't drink water. I think, well, you know, it's just, but I understand where that comes from. So it's not stupid or crazy to say that, but it is a myth, and it's a myth that is a really powerful myth that we tell ourselves in our culture, sadly, very far too young. Muchos gracias, Rodolfo. Yes. Judy says, first time, oh, so slow. Trying to figure out if I want to try drawing and what it feels like. Okay, well, I mean, hopefully this was as easy as a introduction to it as I could make it. Okay, well, that takes us it's about 5:30 here on the West Coast, and I think for here I'm going to call it a show, and thank everybody for tuning in and for all of the great comments. I love that interactive quality that we can have here online that we're not able to do in person. But it's also great that I can have all these people that I've never met all around the world come join me here in the studio and learn a little as well. So, which would have been impossible before, right? I'm super grateful. Thank you very much. Everybody stay safe. Wash your hands. And thank you to all of the people out there. Maybe you're one of them who is continuing to be out there on the front lines, keeping this world running while the rest of us are at home doing a drawing class. So thank you very much, everybody. And until next time, bye-bye.